I welcome us to our third class. I believe that we are faithful in our reading assignment. And I also believe that we are gaining a better understanding of the course, Old Testament Theology. My prayer is that we continue today in all the activities. The Lord will have His way in our reading assignment, in our thinking, in Jesus' name. Yesterday, we have looked at Old Testament in crisis and the problem of Old Testament theology. But before now, we have also looked at the history of Old Testament theology. And in our reading, when we are talking about the phrase biblical theology, and as in that history, we can find out that until Reformation period, there is no distinction between biblical theology and dogma. We are talking about dogma, we are talking about doctrine, systematic theology. It is during the Enlightenment period that the distinction began. And the phrase biblical theology was first created by Wolfgang Jacob Christmann. He was the first one to create, and that is when we started having the distinction between the biblical theology and dogma. And in 1945, biblical theology is separated from systematic theology by Johann Philipp Gabler. We have read that one also. Then from 19th century, biblical theology was divided into Old Testament theology and a New Testament theology. And the person that was responsible for the division is George Lawrence Bois. Then we are talking about cross-section method. You know, the one that pioneered that method was Walter Eckroth. We have looked at that one. And from Martin, we have also looked at the crisis, Old Testament theology in crisis. And that crisis has to do with methodology. We have different methodology. And if you look at each scholar's textbook, Old Testament scholar, their approaches are not the same. And we have looked at their approaches. You know, later on we look at Child approach, we have looked at Eckroth approach. Child approach has to do with canonical approach. And when we're talking about Eckroth, his own has to do, it has a center. To focus on the center as we are constructing. So we have different methodology, you know, as we are going to read today. By God's grace. We also have problem with objectives. We have divergent objectives. Some, they say pure theology. Some, they say scientific critical theology. Some, they say a Christian theology. And we have different orientations, shift of orientations. Some, they will come from historical angle, theological angle, sociological angle. So when we talk about Old Testament theology, the fundamental issues and crucial questions regarding Old Testament theology have not been carefully decided. They are still the matter of debate, even up to today. So that crisis is still there. But what we now have in the Old Testament theology is that each scholar has been allowed to go with your own objective, go with your own approach, go with your own orientation, then you come up with your theology. So that's the reason why I say up to now it cannot be resolved. So each scholars, you know, they are going their different ways, and yet they are coming up with their theology. Today, our focus will be on methodology. Let's read Mekone, pages 40 to 43, and my note 4 to 7. Let's also read Osborne, pages 277 to 286. Then childs. But let's make sure that you focus on that Mekonen and my note. The other one, let's browse through and anything that we gain. Then we use that one to engage with our quizzes today. Let's understand each methodology. Let's know their meaning very well and their description. The Lord bless and help us in all our activities of today in Jesus' name. You are all welcome and thank you.